everybody, my name is Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. This is video number 3 out of 3 of my festive dresses series, and with that I'm going to complete it. This is the first dress that I made. If you watched last week's video, you might have seen the Grinch green dress as well, and this week we are going to make a Reformation inspired cottagecore velvet dress. I asked you folks on Instagram very recently about what kind of design I should go with. Should it be mini length? What kind of sleeve should we go with? And we ended up with a very simple design. We ended up with a square neckline, very simple sleeves, and a midi length, which I'm a sucker for, as you might know. And I think it turned out really nice. It's a very classic staple in your wardrobe that you can wear over and over and over again. I believe it's also lined and comes with a invisible zipper, so if you're interested and keen to learn how to make those, then stay tuned. And yeah, I'm really happy with the result. At the end of this video, you're gonna see a final reveal in my family home, which is where I am in right now, with the Christmas tree and all the shebang. So there's a bit of Christmas b-roll coming away. Yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight in, and I'm gonna show you how I made this dress. I just bought this absolutely gorgeous silk velvet. It was insanely expensive. I bought way much more than I actually needed, but it's beautiful. It is amazing. It's a very rich, dark chocolate brown, and this is gonna be next week's video, so stay tuned. The top is sewn together. You can hardly see the seams, which I find very endearing. Really cute. You basically cannot see the darts, which is quite nice. So the ups and downs of this fabric are that, as I just said, you cannot see any imperfections, which is good because you're prone to so wacky seams with this fabric, because you obviously have the underlying, in this case it's a silk chiffon, and then you have the blue like upstanding fiber of the velvet, and when the two right sides are touching, you press it together, obviously those fibers have to go somewhere, so instead of meeting each other like face on, they kind of like go like this or like that, so that could result in some uneven seams. So the most important thing is, once you've sewn it all together, to check that at least, you know, all the seams in the back and in the front are symmetrically matching. So say this is the center front, these are the darts, they kind of start at the same spot, these are the side seams, and these are the darts in the back, and they all kind of align, and if you manage to do that, then you're good. So for the circle skirt, first thing I'm going to do is to sew together the slit, and again, because it's a bit difficult to manage the fabric, I'm going to place as many needles as I see fit so everything stays in place, and I'm just gonna sew that slit closed as a first step. Okay, so now the slit is closed. Because the skirt and the top are both cut on the bias, we ended up with pieces that are quite a bit wider in distance than they would need to be. What I'm going to do, because I want the slit to hit in a certain spot, is I'm going to place that seam dead center on the spot where I want it to hit. So this is exactly where one of the darts in the front is, and that's where I'm going to navigate from for the rest of the bodice. So as meticulous as I planned my pattern before I start sewing, this fabric doesn't really allow for that much accuracy, at least for me. So you can see that the skirt and the top don't really match up, which is okay because I tried the top earlier and I know that there's too much width in the back anyways, so it's unlikely that we will need this. So as always, when pinning together skirt and top, I'm paying attention to where I place my seam allowances so they are nice and flat, because we will line the dress. I don't have to pay special attention to making this look nice on the inside at the moment, apart from placing seam allowances in the right way, which means darts and side seams in the bodice face away from the center front into the back piece. So that's the direction that I'm folding them to. But actually the side seams I'm folding open like this. So one side is facing into the front and one side is facing into the back to make for a flat, nice finish. So now we have pinned this together. Let me have a look at it. Looking good. And now I'm going to give this a simple stitch. Here I'm working with a stitch length of 3.5 for all the seams so far. Okay, so now the dress shell is assembled. Almost. The last part is to assemble the sleeves, and I will try to do that now. I'm super curious how they turned out in this fabric. They're also cut on the bias, so I'm hoping for a very sleek look. So we have the same shape of sleeve that we've had for the last two videos already, where we have a front and a back in the shape of it, and we simply fold the two on top of each other, right sides facing. And I'm now going to pin that in. This is what the sleeve looks like pinned together. You can see that the seam is going straight from one end to the other end, and this is turning over like this, and this is this natural curvature that we need for the sleeve, I hope. So let me sew that together. Oh, can I wear this? It's perfect. Like, I'm not even kidding you. It's really good. It looks so weird because it's this warpy thing, you know? And you would think, oh, this doesn't look all right. But then when you wear it, it's perfect. And it's just wide enough for comfort, but also narrow enough for it to be this sleek, very slim fitted sleeve. I'm happy. Also, be prepared, because this is what your workstation will look like when working with velvet. It's a mess. Everybody, what I've done so far is I've sewn all of the darts into my lining fabric. So this is the front, we have the two side pieces for the bodice as well as the skirt. And in the skirt I already prepared the slit, which is here, and I pressed all of the seam allowances and all of the darts in the right way. So the seam allowance in the skirt slit I split open and pressed it that way, and for the darts in the bodice I all pressed them to the side as I did in the shell fabric. We need to assemble all of the pieces in the lining just as we did in the shell. I grabbed my shell dress to have a bit of a reference because we cut the shell fabric on the bias, so it's probably in dimensions possibly a little bit different than the lining fabric because the lining fabric is rigid, it doesn't really stretch. So I'm going to have a first reference by placing all of the according pieces on top of each other and then seeing how well they cooperate, so to speak. And it actually doesn't look so bad, definitely all right. Yes, I can see that the darts in the shell are a little bit further apart than the darts in the lining, but that's not so bad. Mainly I need to see exactly how wide or how much seam allowance I gave myself, because I narrowed it a little bit. So we could say that here we're looking at almost 3 centimeters in the front and in the back. Okay, now the exciting part commences. We are going to join shell and lining together, and we do that by placing the lining in front of us so that the good side is facing us, Then we grab the lining and place it on top of the shell so that the wrong side is facing us and that the good sides of both shell and lining are facing each other. So now I'm placing the center front of lining and shell dead on center on top of each other. And now we will have to play around a little bit because the shell is ever so slightly wider than the lining. Because as I mentioned earlier, we cut the shell on the bias, which makes it more elastic and less staying in place. If we were to match up the curves perfectly, there's about that much ease that we need to distribute. Showing you that again, there's a little bit of ease here, and that we need to distribute so that we're not sewing any pleats. So basically we're simply pinning the entirety of the neckline to each other, and that starts in the front and then continues in the back. So if, like me, your shoulders don't quite match up in lining and shell, you can change that now. Okay, so that is a problem apparently that I've been running into, which is that in the back I'm missing quite a bit of fabric in the lining. Not quite sure why that is. So at least there should be the equal amount. That's missing, which it is. Holy moly, to say that it's difficult to sew these two fabrics together would be an understatement. This looks wonky. Oh dear, let's see if we turn it all out, inside out, outside out. Let's see what it looks like. Need to have a look at this on the mannequin. Okay, so I just placed the dress on the mannequin and tried to pull it in the right directions. So this here can be mitigated by cutting the seam allowance on the inside so we can have a nice curve, which none of that I've done yet. But in the back, this looks like a mess. So what I've done is I've pinned the dress together where the natural line would be. I need to measure this out once I take it off, and then I can cut all of this scrap back here so we have an even center back, which is where the zip is going to go in. And this again, I didn't really bother to do anything with this. It's also because the seam allowance, you can feel it here, isn't cut yet, so it doesn't fold around nicely. So yeah, I'm gonna try to fix the neckline by cutting the seam allowance, under stitching it, and then I'm going to fix the center back. Oh dear guys, I realized that I made a very weird mistake. This is actually my center back and this is my side seam, and for some reason I managed to not realize that I have sewn the bodice in the lining together the wrong way. And now I was thinking about just increasing the start size here to make this smaller, but I'm just gonna remove it, and I'm gonna do that while watching Sex and the City because it's gonna take a while. Oh guys, so far this has been very adventurous. Velvet is difficult to work with, let me tell you. So as you might be able to see here, I basically basted the entire neckline in the front and also in the back, as well as the armholes, to basically give all of this some structure and to make sure that the lining underneath the shell stays put where it's supposed to be and it doesn't warp or tug in any wrong way. Also here on the side seams, I basted that shut, and also I fixed my mistake in the back because, as you know, I attached the two back bodice pieces the wrong way. So basically I attached the center back of the back piece to the side seam of the front piece. No idea how this happened, but it happened, so I had to fix it. And this is how far we are. Still quite in the middle of the process, to be fair. Okay, so since I have now basted all of this together so I can be sure nothing is in the wrong place, now I'm going to attempt to sew in the zips. So I bought this invisible zip, which is actually quite light in color, but I didn't want to go with the black one, which here we are. what we are going to do is we're going to take the zip, I'm going to open it a little bit for the first side, and then I'm going to place it so that the right side of the zip is facing the right side of the dress. And I'm going to place it so that there's a little gap on top, because I'm going to sew in a little hook and eye that is going to close it off entirely later. And I'm going to place this roughly 1/2 centimeter offset of the edge of my shell fabric, because I know that this is about where I want it to hit. And I'm going to pin this in now one by one. What I want to make sure is that my zip in the back is parallel to the princess seam that I have here. So first attempt, obviously this is very visible right now because it's not sewn in. I can see that these two ends here don't perfectly match up, which I don't like. I want this to match up nicely and to stand together in the right spot. So what am I gonna do? The top is fine. I think I need to change something about the side seam here. The left side needs to wander up a little bit. Okay, so I will baste the zip to the shell fabric now with a stitch length of say 4, so I can try this whole thing on. Zip is in, success, hopefully. Now I'm gonna close the rest of the skirt by simply placing the right sides facing each other, and then I'm gonna try to assess where best to start, and then under the rest I'm gonna sew together by hand. Okay, so I just tested everything on one side of the zip before I'm going to show you how I did it. And we have this beautiful finish here with the lining tucked away neatly as well as the shell. And the way I did this basically is a little bit similar to how I did the collar in the Louis Vuitton inspired dress last week. So I basically sandwiched the zip in between the lining and the shell and placed the lining and shell right sides touching like this. So when we turn the right side out, we have this beautiful finish that I just showed you, and that goes all the way down to where the zip ends. And the rest of this I'm going to, after I close the zip, attach to the seam allowance here, so it goes all the way down the dress before I finish the hem. Lots of pins in here, and I will sew in the sleeve now.
To
you guys so much for watching if you're still here, and thank you also for being a subscriber if you are. If you enjoyed this video, please give the thumbs up or leave a comment. I always love to read your thoughts and opinions, and I'm always very happy when you enjoyed my videos. And yeah, in that sense, I just wanted to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I hope you were able to enjoy it and celebrate it the way you want it. If you are alone this year, my thoughts go out to you. I really hope that next year is going to be different and that you can celebrate it the way you want as well. And that's it, my friends. I'm gonna see you in the new year. I'm gonna take a little break from YouTube. It's been quite intense in the last couple of months, but I really enjoy this journey with you, and I just love creating these videos. So let's see what we all are going to make together in the new year. See you then.